Welcome to a special emergency edition of Andy Ari On3. Ari's still waiting for the gas guy at his old house. But we got to go on the air because Bill freaking Belichick is going to be a college football head coach. He and North Carolina have come to terms. And Ari, we talked about this when it was floated last week, and both of us were very skeptical. But it's happening.
I cannot believe it. And I think that it's like most interesting, Andy, is that like North Carolina just sent the message today that they like want to win, right? Like is that what you heard? Because that's what I heard.
I think so, because if the reports of his 400-page Bible are true, a lot of what was in there was, here's how the program has to be staffed. Here are the financial requirements in terms of support staff, in terms of player compensation. And if he's going to say yes, it probably means they met quite a few of those demands.
Yeah. And also, too, are paying him quite a bit of money, I think, reportedly, right? So, like, you have that on top of it, too. So, I mean, I think in order to be attractive enough for somebody like Bill Belichick in his position, 6 Super Bowl winning coach, to even waste his time with this at 72 years old, he has to feel like he has the tools necessary to compete, because he's not going there. Like I think this like notion of like, well, you don't have to go win the national title. You don't have to make the playoff. You just have to win 10 games. Like, I don't think he's going to North Carolina to turn them into a 9-3 team. Like, he's going there to turn them into a team that is competing at the highest level. Why would he waste his time doing anything other than that? So, for him to come up with that 400-page Bible, for him to have the time and the energy to even assemble it to begin with, and to know exactly what it takes to win at this level, means that he's put a tremendous amount of research into what it takes to be this good, or to be good at that level. Like, in my opinion, he's going there with the determination of not just, being pretty good. Like, he's going there to win something. And I think that should be an exciting proposition, because he doesn't have to do this. We've talked about retread hires in the past, Andy, the last few weeks, of like, comparing it to Herm Edwards and, some of the other guys like Charlie Weiss and Les Miles. It's like, if there's anybody who's not in a position where they need to go save their career, it's Bill Belichick. So, it's pretty remarkable. I can't believe we're here, Andy. I never thought in a million years that this could happen. But, like, hey, in a world where we lost Jim Harbaugh and Nick Saban last year, and, we had a kind of a coaching personality crisis, I'm excited to have Bill Belichick in our sport. And I'm also very curious to see if he turns into a heel or a hero here in the next year or so.
I'm laughing at the comments in the chat. Waves on Swim. Kids don't care about that old ass man. Laugh out loud. Elias, virtually all the NFL guys that have succeeded in college were college guys first. We shall see. And, like Bill Walsh was successful at Stanford, and obviously one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, and then came back and was kind of middling at Stanford. But this is a different era, different time. One thing I do want to talk about is what this is not. It's not revolutionary. And I think that's one thing that a lot of the reporting on what Belichick wants to do, people seem to not. There's a lot of folks who just, and I understand, they are more familiar with Bill Belichick because they cover the NFL, and maybe are not as familiar with how college football has worked in the last few years, because they are presenting this. Bill Belichick wants to bring an NFL-style front office, wants to set it up like an NFL organization, like it is something revolutionary. And the fact of the matter is, every good college program since 5 years ago has been retrofitting their personnel department to look like an NFL personnel department. They have been staffing in a similar way. They've been, compensating in a similar way. That we've talked all the time about how NIL deals essentially mirror the market in the NFL in terms of positional value and everything else. So that's not new. What he's doing there isn't new. Now, I don't know about you, Ari. My thinking is, though, the X's and O's piece of this will be easy for him. It will seem pretty rudimentary to him.
Yeah, well, to go back on something you just said, because I think it's interesting, like, that is a column. Like, somebody should write that. Maybe I'll do that tonight when I finally get out of gas man hell. But the thought here, too, of, like, looking back at previous hires and stuff, of, like, what worked and what didn't work, it's like, we are entering a new world. Like, this college football is not what college football was 2 years ago. College football is not what it was when Herm Edwards started coaching at Arizona State. Like what I think happened here, and is more important to North Carolina than the person who took the job, is that North Carolina is willing to invest the capital, the money, the want to be good at football. And like, it's an interesting choice because, as we said on the show earlier today or yesterday, like, I bet you if we asked Mac Brown, hey, do you think you got what you needed at North Carolina to exceed your expectations or to reach your goals, he would say no. So I wonder what Mac Brown thinks of this. Because, I don't know that North Carolina was in a place from an NIL standpoint, from a financial standpoint, to win the ACC or to win a national championship. So if Bill Belichick thinks they can, then they must have had to do some soul searching in the last 2 weeks to realize, and say, hey, here's what we want, here's who we are, and here's the much money we need to put up to get to what we want. But I don't know how much we can draw back from, like, oh, well, this worked in 2005. Like that is all out the window.
Yeah.
But it's also true because at the same time, it's not revolutionary. So he's got to be better at it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not coming with the NFL thing, and I got to turn those reactions off. He's not coming to the NFL thing with, like, oh, I'm going to just NFLize the college football and I'm going to do everything that no one's ever seen before. Like, everybody's seen it. Guess what? Clemson and Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, like, these programs have all invested millions and millions and millions of dollars to already create the infrastructures that he's going to have to try to beat now. He's not starting from the front. He's starting from the back. And that's going to be the most interesting thing about this.
Well, and the thing is, he's going to sell, hey, I can prepare you for the NFL. I coached all these NFL players. I know exactly what it looks like. The issue there is Kirby Smart, Dabo Sweeney, Ryan Day, they've already created a lot of first rounders. Like, they can sell that just as well or better because
that's the same thing.
They've done it.
Like, that's the thing that's so funny to me, Andy. It's like, when you're in college, the only thing you're concerned with is being drafted. So, like, is being prepared or being put in an NFL environment, is that sales pitch at North Carolina different than just go to Georgia and be one of our 30 draft picks that we have every other year? Like, it's like, there's, like, what's the difference? So, like, I don't know where I'm at, and I'm sure we'll get to it in this video about, like, whether or not I like this or whether I think it's going to work. What I do think is that it's encouraging to North Carolina fans at all that the university and the administration stepped up from a financial standpoint in order to get him to accept it. Like, that, I think, is a huge step. Whether or not he's successful or not is going to be on him. But he's not, like, North Carolina football is not going to be unsuccessful moving forward because they didn't care enough to invest in their program.
Tyler in the chat says it's UNC. What the hell do they have to lose? Which is a great point. And then Jesse also makes a very interesting point, which is something we've said a couple of times in the past few days, talking about the potential of Bill Belichick coming to college football. Jesse says this is basically just the Deion play, right? Clicks means money, means NIL, means talent, means wins in theory. Yes, all the above. But what Deion showed you is you have to actually coach them well too. They didn't coach them that well in year one under Deion. They coached them very well in year two under Deion and got a lot better. And it was, he revamped the staff. He redid a lot of things that he'd done. And I think Bill Belichick will coach them well. That part I'm not worried about. One stat that I was listening to Joe Ovius and Joe Giglio, who are, they do a great podcast in the Research Triangle area and cover North Carolina and NC State a lot. They pointed out that in the second iteration of Mac Brown's tenure at North Carolina, they lost 8 games as a double-digit favorite. Like, do you think that Bill Belichick will ever do that?
That's a crazy stat, Andy. I didn't know that. I knew a few.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I knew a few of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, like, that's the thing, too. And this might sound like the stupidest question you've ever heard, so just bear with me, Andy. In college football, is being a great X's and O's coach more important now than it's ever been before?
Yes, probably. As long as you have the infrastructure around you, which we think they will, because we think that was demanded before he accepted the job.
Because how many coaches in my era, I guess we'll say the recruiting era, the
Stars Matter era?
Yeah, the 2000 to 2020 era. Like, the greatest coaches during those times usually just had the best players. And, like, I don't know.
Well, but Nick Saban is one of the best X's and O's coaches ever. He also had the best players.
Oh, and that's probably right. The reason why they created a environment where they won as much as they did. I think that it's fascinating because if the teams are actually more on a level playing field from a talent perspective, then the onus to draw up plays and to put your players in the best position and to come up with plans and find those rules to inflate footballs, whatever you want to do in order to give yourself an advantage. What was it? It was deflate footballs. Then you have a coach that
You
you
went
probably
deflate
feel.
gate on him.
Well, I mean, like you said that, in your Bible, that one of the ones was to find every statistical rule that you can and statistically find an edge in everything that he does. And that's what he does, right? So, like in college football,
Oh,
the funny
that
thing,
wasn't within the rules according to the
well, the
so
funny, well, then he'll fit right in the sport because who follows the rules in college football? And,
exactly.
and like the other thing too, uh, when you think about how thick the actual rule book is, whether it's nonsense or not, like the rule book in college is so much more extensive, and there's so many other things that you can exploit. Like, if he was trying to figure out a way to exploit the football inflation rules, like think about what kind of rules he can exploit in recruiting. Like when you
Well, there are no rules anymore. Those rules
no,
are
no,
all
I know, but
gone.
like
That's
not just those, just not recruiting, but just like talent accumulation, all the things that you can do. There's a whole other sliver of like red tape that exists in college football that does not exist in the NFL that you can exploit.
so
So it could be interesting.
Bill Belichick has 8 Super Bowl rings total. He had 2 as a defensive coordinator, 6 as a head coach. The hope is to bring championship rings to North Carolina. Also, if he does well, he may be able to get the Tar Heels one of these. What is this? This is an Axia watch. These are just absolutely beautiful, automatic Swiss-made timepieces, and they are the official watch of the college football playoff. And if your team gets in the college football playoff, then you probably can buy an Axia watch with your team's logo, colors. They're gorgeous. You're looking at the Boise State one on the screen right now. I have a Michigan commemorative national title watch in a box signed by Jim Harbaugh that is available at axiatime.com. So just gorgeous timepieces. They're so cool. When you see them, you'll say, wait, you can get this for this price? Yes, you can. And if you're an Arizona State fan, a Boise State fan, Indiana fan, Georgia fan, Texas fan, want to commemorate your team's trip to the college football playoff, get yourself an Axia watch. Axiatime.com. That's AXIA time.com. These are absolutely gorgeous. Mine is so cool. But we'll see if Bill Belichick can have that UNC logo. I think you gotta have a little bit of you'd want the Argyle stripe on your Axia watch, right? If you get him in the playoff. Do we do it that way, Ari?
I mean, the Argyle is just classic, and the thing that you might not be able to show because you're wearing your watch right now, Andy, is how cool the exposed case is on the back.
Oh yeah,
It shows the inner workings of the automatic movement, and like they have your name engraved in the back of it for the playoff committee selection this year, which I thought was really cool. It's a nice touch. I'm not upset that I didn't get one, like at all. Just mildly disappointed.
I think yours is in the mail. I think it's coming.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Can Bill Belichick get North Carolina there? I've heard a lot of people say this is a one-year thing. He just wants to hand off to his son, Steve. Let's talk about his son, Steve, real quick. I don't know that yet. We have not seen the details of this deal and how that's going to work. But I will say for the last year, Steve Belichick has been the defensive coordinator at Washington with our guy, Jed Fish. And I think Bill has been around that program quite a bit. From what we've been told, him being able to see college players adapting to his schemes, running them effectively, kind of gave him the confidence to do this. But I also imagine watching Jed and his program, and we've seen Jed kind of rise from, he was in the NFL for a while. He'd obviously been a college coordinator before too, but he got the Arizona head coaching job. You saw him come in like gangbusters, grab a great recruiting class off the bat, build a winner in Arizona. Now he's at Washington trying to rebuild that program after the roster flooded out following making the national title game. But I do wonder how much of being in close proximity to that program and seeing how all of this works, coached by a guy in Jed Fish who's been at the NFL level. I wonder how much Bill Belichick was taking notes.
assuming that like if you're a football guy, you're probably fascinated by how it all works, right? And being close and kind of
Mhm.
being in a position where you can kind of see how the sausage is made from behind the scenes. Um, I think would be appealing. The thing that I do wonder is if this were 2019 and it was just the same way that it worked before, like if he would have an appetite to recruit. And I wonder how different it's going to be, because like, listen, can we just call it like it is? Like,
Sure.
Bill Belichick is not Mr. Personality. Like, he's not a very, at least outwardly, an
I'm
engaging
glad you
person.
mentioned that, Ari. Do you remember the Nick Saban Bill Belichick documentary where the two were chatting together and they filmed their conversations? Like Nick Saban is a lot. Everybody thinks Nick Saban is like this crusty old curmudgeon. I think him being on College Game Day has disabused people of that notion. Like they understand now he does have a really good personality, really great dry sense of humor. Nick Saban was a really good recruiter. And it's funny because Nick Saban was never a car salesman. Like all those leaked Zooms we saw of Nick Saban actually recruiting, like he would never promise anybody anything. But in that era, most of the great recruiters were car salesmen. Bill Belichick is not a car salesman. Like he's not equipped to do that. But the thing is, I don't think you have to be that anymore in the era of revenue sharing supplemented by NIL, where there's going to be money for the players, and that's going to be a piece of the player's decision.
Yeah, yeah. The financial aspect of this and the salary cap aspect of this and the allocation of funds and finding uncoveted resources to help flourish is all very exciting. And I think as it pertains to like what he'll be qualified to do as a coach, that what he was good at in the NFL actually parallels what North Carolina is going to need him to do from the jump. The I guess the question I'd have for you, Andy, is that even if he comes in and does a really, really good job, like the time arc for success for that program. Like, I mean, are you giving him 3 years to get it where, Mac Brown wanted to get it? Like, or is this like quickly to you?
I would think it would need to go quickly. The cynical people are already saying he's going to do this for a year. If they win or remotely successful, he'll use the springboard back into the NFL. And let's be real here. He may be doing this because he checked around and found out he wasn't going to get an NFL job this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like we talked about the personnel aspect of this too. Like Bill Belichick has been the personnel person for the Patriots when he was there. And he might be able to get a coaching job in the league, but I don't know how much of an appetite there is to allow him to be in complete control of the personnel on the roster. Whereas in college, he gets to mold that himself. So like that's exciting. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it's kind of bizarre the last 2 years watching the coaching carousel in the NFL as a just a fan of the sport, not really understanding how the coach who had the greatest dynasty in NFL history can't find a job while random people get hired and fired every day in that league. But like I'm pretty fired up to have him as somebody we're talking about on the show about who we're writing about. Like I think that like as it pertains to the entertainment factor of college football and how much personality and storylines can kind of move it. Like you've seen how much fun it's been to debate and discuss Dion over the years. I'm super excited that he's going to be here and allowing us to kind of follow this journey because you know the one thing I will say is I was wrong about Dion, Andy, but I thought his basement at Colorado was like rock bottom. Like I thought it could have been an absolute disaster when he got hired. I think you heard a lot of people say it's either going to be an epic success or an absolute disaster. Like I don't know that if they follow the guidelines that Bill Belichick put into place to even accept the job, if I think the basement is that low. It's just a matter
I
of whether
think you're right about that.
reach a ceiling.
Also,
I think it'll be fine either way. Yeah.
so the schedule for North Carolina also is not a bear. It's not the worst schedule in the world. So, like, if he's remotely good at putting a roster together, we know he's great at the X's and O's. We know he'll hire a staff that understands the X's and O's. The North Carolina should be fairly successful off the bat. So, out of conference, TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, and UCF. In conference, Cal, NC State, Clemson, Duke, Stanford, Virginia, Syracuse, Wake Forest. That's a schedule that if you put together an above average college football roster, you are winning 8 games at least.
Do your job.
That's right. Do your job. Oh, it's gonna be spectacular. I mean, this is Bill freaking Belichick is going to be on the sidelines against TCU next year. Like, we're on to TCU. Like, it is amazing.
It's also this show's new directive to have him on.
Oh yeah. Yes. We have to book Bill Belichick. The request has already been put in to North Carolina Sports Information Director.
Who's our guy, by the way. Jeremy's a listener of the show.
Yeah, Jeremy Sharp listens to the show.
Putting you on notice, pal. Hey, mind meld.
That's right. Book this guy.
We're number 1 on that. Yeah.
Then we have to figure out what to ask him, because I think I'm going to dip deep into my bag of long snapper questions.
I have a particular question that has nothing to do with football that I would love to ask him one day, but we'll get to that.
What
later.
is it? Now I want to know.
Has he been No, I can't say it right now. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay. All right. Now I'm intrigued. Now I'm very intrigued. Now we have to get him on the show.
I'm going to say it.
Okay.
How epic
Go
was
ahead.
this Ring camera thing? Like, this guy's got to have a Ring camera sponsorship. like, did he know the camera was there? Like, it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Okay? And I don't know if it's inappropriate or if I'm not supposed to say it, but it's like, let's talk about it. Like, he got
It's probably not good. This may be hurting our chances to get him on the show, but it's one of those things where, yes, on its face, you'd think that's somewhat embarrassing, where you're clearly getting hit by a Ring camera while doing the walk of shame. But if you look like that at his age, the man's an absolute unit. And like, that's one of those things where, oh, I didn't know the camera was there. Oh, did you get my biceps there?
It's also like funny to think that a coach that won a Super Bowl 6 different times with the greatest quarterback who's ever played got caught on a Ring camera doing the walk of shame. Like, like, that's the thing too, like, about this show, and like, maybe I'm just fired up, or I've just been sitting in a vacant house all day waiting for them to turn the gas on, and maybe there's a little gas in here, but like, that's what the show needs. We gotta like lean into that stuff a little bit sometimes, and it's like that is funny. That is like funny and also harmless. Like, he's a single man; he can go out and do whatever he wants, and like, I
just hope his answer's like, "You're damn right. That's all me, baby."
Yeah. I wouldn't be ashamed if I were him. That's go be yourself. Hey, and you know what? If they say he can't recruit, I've got a Ring video to show you.
That's right.
I don't know if this went off the rails a little bit, but this is what you get when you ask me to be your co-host.
Listen, I'm here for it. I want you asking him that question. If he storms off in disgust, fine.
Maybe they'll catch it on camera.
Hope so, or we're fired. But but again, like, my response to that would be like, oh, I didn't know that camera was there, but clearly not missing chest days ever.
But I think it's great, and I'm happy he's in the sport. I think we've a lot to talk about, and like, it's just cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I am excited. If you have questions about Bill Belichick or anything else in college football, tomorrow on Thursday in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, is a Dear Andy and Dear Ari show. We open the mailbag, answer your college football questions. You can hit us up at Andy_Staples, at Ari Wasserman on X and on Instagram, or you can email me, AndyStaplesOn3@gmail.com. We'll be answering your questions Thursday morning, 9:30. We're here every weekday, Monday through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Also, Saturday nights after the games. We're going to have so much fun talking about Bill Belichick. This is going to be spectacular. And yes, now I think we've set the precedent. We've set the tone. We've probably made it hard to book him, but I've never backed down from a challenge. We're going to get him on the show, and Ari's going to ask the Ring camera question, and I'm just going to duck. We'll talk to you tomorrow.